It's about time, bro. Yo, is this like, am I dreaming? Like, is this real? Did they really do this for me? I feel like sometimes when they do these ban lists, like when they gave Benton back, and then they gave me all three of my girls back, all three of my queens, and they just printed Diviner. It's like, sometimes I feel like Konami just, they just do me a solid, and I think they know what they're doing. They were like, you know what, Stacks? We took your Dinlong away from you. We still haven't gave it back. We're going to give you something, bro. So here, have your servants back. And next ban list, we're going to give you Electromite back. And then, when that happens, Electromite into Beyond, bro. Oh, just so fat. Like, man, I have so much goo for you guys. This deck has not been in the good spot for an extremely long time, and no matter how many ways I tried to force it to work, it never really had results that just I saw desirable in like a 10 to 13 round tournament. Maybe a locals, maybe a regionals, it could potentially do good, but ZEFRA just has not really, it just hasn't been it for a while. I mean, of course, when you love a deck, you always try to force it to work. You do the best you can. And before you know it, you're not even playing a Zephyr deck anymore because you're trying so hard to make it viable that at this point you feel like you might as well just play another deck. Because it's like what you're trying to do can be accomplished with less cards and a better deck that can play a compact engine that can play a lot more going second cards. And it's just more well-rounded and versatile. But what I did was I just decided to account for the weaknesses. I wanted the main deck strength. I wanted the main deck strength to be on par with like full power pin, similar-esque, being that your engine's so powerful that naturally you can breeze through boards if they're just normal boards, like if you're getting your pin zones locked out by a by Shangri-La, it's just like, what are you going to do? So when you're playing Pendulum modernly, another thing that you guys have to understand is even though it's not going to be the only matchup you play, the going second cards that you play in your main deck have to all be able to counter your worst matchup, which is Cash. When it comes to decks like Despia, because they don't really typically set up a lot of disruption for your back row or to even disrupt your pendulums, like a lot of the times their interactions come at different points. So a lot of it, they wait for you to play into it. But like with pendulums, the way this deck's designed is before you even play into anything that's ferocious or anything that can threaten your board, you're already putting threats out in the process of getting ready to pendulum summon before you even start making your board. These builder bear fools are already going to have to deal with two negates. It's kind of wild. I really like this deck. I like it a lot. It's performed like it's like I really want it to be original, like the full power pendulum deck that I'm so used to, but I haven't got that feel. I haven't got that taste since 2019, dude. It's been a long time, and that copium, you chasing it and you just realize like, bro, this dream, you might not actually get to get to see it come into fruition, So nonetheless, I think this is an incredibly fun deck. I think it has so much potential. The Zephyr cards themselves, I really feel like they open more avenues for just the engine's ability to integrate things that can really change the way that you establish your main turn one board, and also how you can just diversify your interruptions. It helps the side deck because things can become more compact. In addition to that, just being able to change your list at any time, at any point where the format just kind of just goes like to a left turn, and all of a sudden like there's a deck just popping up like on the Forerunner, just like, oh, this is the new best deck. ZEFRA has always had that edge. Its engine is very, very compact, but also because of its kooky playstyle and the really unique capabilities that it has with its manipulation on just whatever you want to synchro, and just the ability to search any monster off of Oracle of Zephyr, it really gives it such a unique playstyle, and also just the ability to perform turn one combos that like other Pendulum decks just really can't just do that consistently. It's just one of the biggest strengths. It's like the only thing that sets this deck apart truly, outside of its ability to have main deck engine searchable, like cards that counter Dark Ruler and cards that counter like Book of Eclipse, for example. Even certain ones counterplay like Lava Golem and Spear Mode, for example. Outside of that, it's just the flexibility that the engine has. I'm going to talk about my goo for my next list in the middle of this one, but yeah, you guys, this is what I'm working on right now. If you haven't done so already, definitely subscribe to Team Kings of Games. Click the like button if you like the video. Definitely leave a comment, let me know how I'm doing. And in addition to that, if you guys want to take it even further, you can always become a member of the Discord. That is a community that everyone's going to benefit from because there's so many players in there bouncing ideas from each other and honestly just eating and growing together. And then also, if you would like to be coached by your boy, if you want to know about my accolades or how many I have, I could definitely show you and tell you. But yeah, if you want to receive coaching, that is a tier 2 or higher Patreon exclusive benefit. But let's get started, you guys. So the going second non-engine, we can just count prosperity technically, you know. We can count it because like Cash is gonna, like, if they resolve Unicorn, I mean not Unicorn, if they resolve what's that guy's name? I'd be forgetting his name, bruh. The rank 7, you know, the little man, he's a little taint. Freaking Diaboloses or whatever his name is. When they resolve the guy that lets them see your extra deck, they're gonna, if they're not dumb, they can read beyond the pendulum, right? So they're automatically gonna start using their Shangri-La to lock your pendulum zones. So like prosperity in pendulums is a really safe call, mainly because you're not gonna be activating it, and when it resolves, all 5 of your zones are gonna get locked. Off of like triggering the rank 7 and the Shangri-La separately, and just boom, no monsters. They're always gonna go for your pendulum zones because they literally put you on can you out Shangri-La or you lose every single time. So this is really safe playing into boards because every single one of the going second cards I play all can be hit off of prosperity playing into an established board, and it's totally safe. You know, a lot of these, and that's the thing that I like too, is that they can be drawn as the 6th card, you know, going second playing into a board, and it's not a big deal. They have absolutely no synergistic like plays or properties going first. They're not like hand traps, but the value that you get out of these cards is each one of them deals with the main threat, which is Shangri-La, and allows you to play. And that's all that matters, as long as you're allowed to play. You know, a lot of what Cash does involves that. They're just going to try and lock you out. They play some decent hand traps. They have a lot of non-engine. But outside of a Rise Heart Banish and just hoping that you might be hindered by Rise Heart, which pendulums typically are not that affected by Macrocosmos S cards, you know, the Shangri-La is the biggest threat. So any and every going second card you put in a pendulum deck in 2023, all of them have to be able to deal with the Cash board. You can't play Veilers, you can't play Imperms, you know, you might not even be able to risk it playing Nibiru, just playing into the tactic cards, you know. You just want a clear-cut, concise way to just deal with the board. The benefit to Korikara that I like, because I was going to play like Thrust and stuff like that, I really was, but I like Korikara even more because it's also an extender. It's just a card that allows me to go into cards like Beyond the Pendulum while dealing with the field on its own. Nobody plays around this card, it's not respected. Once it got wrote off as a bad card, people stopped respecting it. So Cash is always playing into this. A Rise Heart doesn't have a choice, but they're always activating Shangri-La on your standby every single time. And even if they're not, they're still going to try and resolve, you know, their Shangri-La. After they lock your pendulum zones, they're definitely going to go after your monster zones and so on and so forth. So this card's pretty much always live. It's always gas. Outside of that matchup, it's a really powerful card. It's kind of not broken, but because it's not being played around and it's not in the format, it makes it so much more impactful than it should be. When people play around it, it's not as good, but there's just an inevitability. Like, if your opponent wants to prevent you from playing, they're going to have to play into this card, which is what makes it so dangerous because it does not activate. So just 2 tactics. I had to keep it in 50. I just feel like I'm not going to play any more than 50 in this deck. That was the highest I was going to go for because I still wanted to see like my going second cards, my consistency cards. My non-engine was the main priority because I didn't want to like drop it to 40 and then cut cards that I actually really need for like the deck to function the way I built it to, but also not go over 50 because I want to play more going second cards. So this is like the sweet spot. Prosperity is anything. And your extra deck pretty much doesn't matter majority of the time. We are on 3 mastery. It feels so good to be able to like actually have 3 mastery and 3 servant. Like that is like one of the most goated combos ever. Like that is 2 card like just GG no re Brody. And the Zephyr cards have always had that great synergy with the ENDYMION cards because their main starters all typically add multiple spell counters. Most of the time it's 3 if it's off Providence. But even with Oracle, you know, just being able to get cards like Zephrath and Zephrath into, for example, Zephyr Neo into a Providence to still get your counter trap and still load 3 counters. Zephyr has always have been good with just having the ability to just force your way in access to get 3 counters. That's the main thing with the Endymion cards, is they don't really do anything by themselves. You know, most Pendulum decks don't really have that. I mean, with Zephyras, there's like a lot of 2-card combos. Almost every combo they have is 2 cards. But with the Endymion cards, like, you have to basically draw cards like these, and then a card that can put at least 3 counters. So that's the reason why we're also on Brave, because we really don't have a normal summon for this deck at all. Like, the only normal summons that I like in Zephyr are either the Madolche cards and the giant Planet Pathfinder. The Planet Pathfinder. And if I'm on the Planet Pathfinder, I'm playing like 1 Regulus and 1 Colosseum. If I'm on the Madolche cards, I'm playing Gallant Grand Knight and Baguska. And it's just like easy way to Zeus. However, this is worth the trade-off if you're going to be integrating this. And the trade-off is well worth it because Zephyrs really don't have that aggressive... they just can't really just go out of nowhere and just go critical mass and just apply pressure to a board and threatening like to go for game. Like, they can grind really well, they can trade, you know, they can definitely force interruptions, but most of the time the deck just does not have like enough firepower to just close games out fast. So a lot of times you just keep making cards from your extra deck that are threats and just keep playing. Like, every turn you just put out new threats, and the idea is that the pressure should be enough for your opponent to crumble under. And the beauty of it, obviously, being Pendulum is every turn your Pendulum summon's going to be a lot more impactful than the first time because you're constantly loading, especially with Zephyr in rotation. But, dude, these and the Endymion cards just give you everything that Zephyrs really lack when it comes down to it. That's my experience with this deck so much. I just want to kill people and I can't. You know, pure Zephyrs just doesn't really have that. Like, they have so many ways to floodgate you, even with the path lock, which I'm not on right now because you can clearly see my build conflicts too much. But yeah, besides that, we're on 3 copies of Servant, and yes, Enchantress or Right is literally 3 spell activations, which is beautiful, or 2 spell activations. I'm sorry, which is just absolutely beautiful. 3 Servant, 1 Magister. This guy, like, when Servant was at 1, Magister was like my boy. He is the GOAT, bro. Like, people just do not put enough respect on his name. He pays the rent. He's goated. He's kind of crazy. Like, he really is. And he is a card that lets you easily play past Nibiru, even though this deck barely ever does. And whenever it does, it's like literally putting up multiple negates before you even Pendulum summon. But if your opponent's they just drew so amazing, their hand's just godly, you know. This card is kind of nice with it, bro. Like, it really is. We have just 1 Jackal King, simply to be able to have, again, the diversity and interruptions is going to come from the bottom 3 cards. The 1 Jackal King, the 1 Reflection, and the 1 Indy. And you can just keep relooping these cards with Indy. He's kind of just... He's one of the cards that allow your Endymion engine to actually give you consistent follow-up, especially when you're pumping out multiple. Just giving you your scales back, giving you more pressure for your follow-up. And the crackback with the Endymion cards, especially with a card like this, is super nice with it. But with the Zephras, the thing is, like, Zephyr is always going to be there unless you like literally go Zephyr War on him. So it makes it kind of awkward sometimes in your crackback, and that's one thing that you may experience. Like, you have to, if you really have that much hindsight, when you set up your turn 1 board, you also have to have a way to be able to clear your scales at times. Which, you know, again, and then just take you to chapter 4, verse 3. Target 2 cards in the field and destroy them. You know, I mean, it's not impossible, but it's just like, if you don't plan and set up to be able to do that, you might have a lot of pressure that you can't even apply because you just need like another scale to put your Endymion cards back on, and then you want to resolve Magister, Mighty Master eventually, because that's just really like, that's one of the easiest ways for you to just clean it up in the game. You don't really want to go past turn 3. Like, it's just not ideal because it's just kind of annoying, bro. It really is. With Zephyrus too, like, people are always reading your cards. You're gonna go into time. They're literally always reading your cards, and then they pick it up and read it again. And then some of the cards you summon from the extra deck are kind of weird. Like, I'm not on the really weird cards this time. I kind of just went very, very standard. If you can even consider this standard, I just went for straightforward stuff that's not situational. That's just pretty much, it's gonna be good for the format. Like, Shinshin, I believe, is a great call in certain matchups, and I just like Chao Feng to be able to Earth Lock. You know, Finra is nice. I'm just saying, he's a card. He's really nice with it. And Metaphys Horse is just broken with freaking Oracle of Zephyr. And Charge Warrior is so that you can do the combo. Stack 1, draw 1. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. So yeah, these are the targets. Obviously, the rest of the Zephyrs, like, you know, my Anger Translator, Obviously, the Lifeblood. I'm only on one ZEFRA. Drawing too many Zephyr cards is kind of not ideal in this build. You just want to have the power 1-ofs that all have a lot of utility, and most of the time they're going to be searched out turn 1. You know, these cards all have different applications where they're just good. Most of the time they're just good. And being able to chain block cards like Saiton and Thubin is one of the best things Zephyr has going for themselves going second, because hard negates will, especially hard monster negates, will get countered by those kind of cards because you can structure your chain link so Thubin is like chain link 1, for example, and you pop. Unless they got Valor, you know, and they nice with it. Wendy's Bay. And then Fateful, these are bricks. These last 6 cards, another great reason to play 50. These are bricks to me. I just don't see, I really don't see these being in my hand. Like, they don't exist unless I search them. So, the way I play this deck is basically I never draw these. And that's just how I think it. I speak it into existence. I manifest it. I'm not going to draw my bricks. I'm going to draw gas every single game. Every time I go a second against Cash, I'm always going to have a way to out their board. If I play against Branded, you know, boy, you better have lost up. That's all I'm saying. For the extra deck, Shin Shin, Chao Fang, that's my boy. Metaphys Horus, Charge Warrior. You can play like tuner stuff, you know, tuner good stuff to give him more value. But I'm not really going to 9 pillars this guy. I'm not going to lie. Like, he's too nice. When you bring him out, it's because he's applying the pressure that you need him to. He's a floodgate. Double Beyond the Pendulum. Beyond the Pendulum is kind of whacking Zephras for 2 reasons. Zephrath and Zephrath. So, it does hurt, but also at the same time, the beauty of this build is it has so many ways to fix that problem that ultimately Beyond the Pendulum starts to feel like a win more card, because most of the time when you're resolving this card, you had more than enough. You already did. The only thing that makes this card not as ideal in a Zephyr build is because it negates Zephrath, bringing him back to a scale 5, you know? But, however, you know, it's not the end of the world, because there's a lot of other ways to set up your scales. And ultimately, most of the time, Zephrath is literally just getting me Zephyr Neo. So if I already have Zephyr Neo access, then I don't even need to do that. IP, just another layered disruption. Appaloosa, barely make it in testing. It's just like, this card just doesn't really come up for me. I might change it because I put it in because I felt like, dang, like, being able to get 3 Pendulum Zones on your crackback is so amazing. But, like, I always go for this, just to be able to apply more pressure and just go for game. So, that's kind of wild. Like, I guess I could say this list really doesn't need Appaloosa. It really doesn't, because, like, every time I can make this card, my board's just better. The cards I would use to make it are all, I'm like trading diversity for one card that's just going to get smacked by Fenrir. Boral Sword, because you got to kill people, bro. Zephra's, like, they just don't have that, you know. This deck is like, I'm him, but at the same time, on turn 3, this deck's like, help me. Baguska, this is my boy. I don't really think Dweller is going to be that great right now, like, I'm not going to lie. It's cool against, like, Branded sometimes, but Baguska is just that guy. Yes, Cash can out it, but because their only out is a searchable 1-of, this plus any one of your back rows is just like GG, bro. I play double Zeus, double Rysart. That's my worst matchup. Bro, please unicorn me. Not even unicorn. Please use your little rank 7 and, like, banish one of these. It does not matter. I'm getting the Zeus. That's all I know. And then this card does not belong here, but this is something I was saving towards the end of the profile. This is my new goo. So there's a really dope turn 1 combo off 2 cards where you have 2 different routes. You can actually hard search the Mikanko Ritual Monster, which is obviously gas, you know. It's kind of crazy. You can hard search this and use this effect and start the Mikanko engine that way. Or you go crazy and you summon Power Tool Braver and you equip 3 Mikanko spells, right? And not all of them have to literally be equipped to a Mikanko. So, like, you take some of Mikanko cards, and there's another equip spell. I can't remember its name right now. I'd have to look it up. But you basically just get 2 Mikankos. It should be the one that summons, and I have not tested thoroughly with this yet. This is more like an idea. I have the blueprint and everything, but right now I'm in the process of forcing it to work. And once it's smooth enough to where it doesn't feel like it's convoluted and I'm just trying too hard to make something work, and I figure out just how it can run smoothly without any conflicting hands or drawing too many bricks and just minimizing and getting the best out of the engine without playing so many bricks, this is going to be the new build that I'm going to be showcasing you guys next. So it's this guy. It's the special summon from hand or grave, and then it's the special summon one from deck. And then the other equip is like, man, you know what? I'm not even gonna tell you till I show the list. But yeah, and these guys also are gonna come with the rest of the engine. But I also like the idea of just being able to play into boards with this card. This card's kind of crazy. It's kind of nice. And nobody really pays attention to this guy. He's that boy, bro. Like, he's an interruption by himself. But to be able to get access to the Makonko engine while ending already on an interruption, like, let's say this card gets impermed. Which he's not, because this always gets impermed. But if they have two, they imperm him, right? It doesn't even matter because you're still ending on an interruption. So it's like, they can trade two cards with you, and they still have to play into this in whatever your board had, you know. And that's not always gonna be ideal because hello, bro. Like, I'm just saying, that's another reason why like Beyond really is icing, because I'll have boards where I'm like, I can make Beyond, but it's so greedy because it's gonna turn off my negates. Then I'm gonna play in the nib, and I can't stop it. So this card, it feels like a turn 3 card a lot for me, or a turn 2, because I guess I'll call myself turn 0. But it feels like a turn 2 card a lot. I just really like this card. I think it's so broken. Like, I really believe the best effect is the pop 2 high key. I know it sounds wild, right? Like, add any pendulum, that's half of an Electrum. Target 2 cards on the field and freaking destroy them, because you're always chain blocking this. This is always getting chain blocked. So like, when you get this card up, they have to have like imperm or something like that. But you're always having protection. And your blowouts can help you to clear the field, so your crackback is just like, do you have a hand trap for this crackback or not? Like, do you? And if you have imperm, there's times where you still have this bad boy there. Like, this deck is really, really nice with it when it gets set up. It's an uphill battle because it's not the best deck of the format. It is Pendulum, so it has the inherent flaws of the mechanic. It is obviously not going to have a lot of room for non-engine. And post-siding, you know, the only flex that it has is this normal summon doesn't really matter. However, you do need a lot of cards, so your side deck has that synergy. So your blowouts more than likely have to always be spell cards. Cards like Dark Ruler, cards like, you can even put in cards like Super Poly, cards like Book of Eclipse. You know, the thrusts, because thrust is kind of nice with it to be able to get cards like Providence or even Right. You know, so when you're playing Pendulum, that's the other thing. If you're new to this deck, it's not like other decks, especially these kind of builds. Draco Slayers can get away with it, but decks like this, where every card matters and you're playing the Endymion cards, your side deck also has to have synergy. We have to keep your engine in mind at all times. Game 1, 2, and 3, no matter where you're going first or second, your hands have to be cohesive. You can't draw clunky hands with like evenly matched in spear mode and like hand traps. You know, you're not gonna really be playing hand traps in the first place unless you're playing like pure ZEFRA, because a lot of these cards, like all these Brave cards and these Endymion cards, these would just be hand traps. That's what pure ZEFRA is gonna be really, really good at. It can play a lot of non-engine. You can play 20 going second cards in pure ZEFRA, but you're not really going to be able to kill people, so then you're going to want to change out the hand traps for some firepower. And that's my that's my endless song and dance with this deck. But I do love it. It's my favorite Pendulum archetype. It's so cool. It's actually the most lit Pendulum deck like ever. I love it to pieces. It is so fun, so unique. And it has some really, really weird and diverse options when it goes into the extra deck, because it can summon cards like that no other decks can summon right now, and it has no business. I mean, I can make Mirror Jade if I really wanted to. Like, this deck truly is so capable, and that is one of the things that really gives it an edge in certain formats, because you can hard search cards like not Zombiestein, friggin' Cyberstein. You know, you have the Earthlock for Chao Feng. You guys remember Zodiac? You know what I mean? You got the Earthlock for Chao Feng. You've got we used to have the VFD lock, but now you've got the I can't even tell you guys the generator combo. Dude, it's just crazy. This deck can do so much. God bless you guys. Thank you so much for watching this video. Make good choices. Don't do drugs. Don't hurt your brain cells. Y'all have a beautiful day, alright? Peace.